Thank you very much. It's great to be here in Winnipeg. I'm Richard Gage. I've been a practicing architect for 20 years. I became interested in these collapses after hearing the startling conclusions of a reluctant 9/11 researcher, David Ray Griffin, on the radio in March of 2006. This has changed my life radically and launched my personal and professional quest for 9/11 truth, inspiring me to found the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. I want to thank you guys for being willing to take on the difficult subject of the destruction of the World Trade Center and the staggering loss of life on 9/11. It's extremely important that we know the truth about this event because it served as the pretext for two wars, the invasion of two countries in which almost 1 million people have already perished. It could happen again if we don't dedicate ourselves to finding out exactly what happened and why. These are the reasons we must peer into this painful part of our recent history. And to find out why, for instance, a 2006 poll by the New York Times CBS News revealed that 28% of Americans believe the Bush administration is lying, not just about Iraq, but about the events of 9/11. Of even greater concern, another poll by Scripps Howard Ohio University, which found that a shocking 16% believe that the World Trade Center towers were brought down by controlled demolition with explosives. Unfortunately, my research of the last 12 months has confirmed that this is true. This is why we now have the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, and why the 9/11 Truth movement itself is growing by millions every year. This afternoon, I'll present to you the very clear evidence that all three World Trade Center buildings, the high-rises, the iconic Twin Towers, and Building 7, were destroyed not by fire, as our government has told us, but by controlled demolition with explosives. I'm employed with a San Francisco Bay Area architecture firm, and like many other architects, I've designed numerous fireproofed steel frame buildings in my career. Most recently, these $3 and $10 million gymnasiums. And I've also been responsible for the day-to-day construction administration services for this $120 million new high school in San Ramon, California. I'm now working on quite a large project in Nevada with almost 2 million square feet of retail, parking structure, and steel-framed high-rise office space with over 10,000 tons of steel framing. But why have most of the architects that I have so far shown this presentation to joined AE911truth.org and calling for a new independent investigation into these collapses on 9/11? And these engineers, you'll find all of them listed on our website, AE911truth.org. Why is Time magazine posting the story that 36% of Americans, and according to this other poll, believe that the administration is somehow complicit in the events of 9/11? The Washington Post, citing the 16% figure of Americans believing the Twin Towers were brought down by explosives. Why have 100 well-known prominent Americans called for an independent probe into 9/11? 110 9/11 survivor and family members, 120 distinguished professors, all independently calling for a new investigation. Well, on 9/11, the American people were subjected to repeated shocking attacks, killing thousands of Americans. This has not happened since Pearl Harbor. The 5 years since 2001 has given us enough time to actually become objective. We have to step out from underneath the hypnotic trance that we were put in and gather the evidence that exposes the need to reevaluate these three World Trade Center high-rise collapses more objectively. Let's begin with an overview of the events of that morning so we can all get on the same page and take a look at the myth that developed.
September 11th, we learned that 4 passenger planes were hijacked and taken radically off course. Within an hour, 2 of the planes had flown into the enormous steel towers of the World Trade Center, creating fires and eventually toppling them. Dazed by the news, the American public soon believed the fires in the towers had burned so hot they caused the steel frames of the buildings to give way. A myth developed, fed by official sources through the media to a bewildered audience. Elements of the myth: the impact of the airplanes, gallons of burning jet fuel, steel melting, the buildings failing and suddenly imploding. In a mere 10 seconds, 110 stories hurtled earthward, pulverizing into dust. Right from the start, on the street itself, the official story was born.
Come out of nowhere and just scream right into the side of the Twin Tower, exploding through the other side. And then I witnessed both towers collapse, one first and then the second, mostly due to structural failure because the fire was just too intense.
The myth bled into the FEMA report and was echoed by the experts.
It was the combination of the impact load doing great damage to the building, followed by the fire, that caused collapse.
Buildings are destroyed by a number of different forces, each having very different identifiable characteristics. For instance, fires affect building differently than controlled demolition and explosions. Fires, by their nature, tend to creep from place to place as they run out of fuel and find fresh fuel sources, leaving behind the burned out area to cool. Now, when collapses do occur, and they have never in a high-rise office building, but for instance in wood buildings, they begin gradually and asymmetrically with large, visible, slow deformations. So remember this. Controlled demolition we'll be taking a very close look at. When buildings topple, as in earthquakes like this, their mass tends to hold together. They don't pulverize to concrete. When buildings pancake, like this concrete building in an earthquake in Mexico, you tend to see a whole lot of pancakes on the bottom. We'll be looking for those pancakes when we get to the World Trade Center. And when buildings explode, we see flashes of light, visible streamers, lots and lots of explosive smoke and dust from pulverized concrete. These buildings fell over or collapsed. They tend to hang together. They don't pulverize to dust. They follow the path of least resistance. They don't fall straight down through themselves and turn to dust. Note the thick, dense billowing and enormous clouds with explosions. The shooting streamers, flashes of light. We'll be looking for these elements in all 3 World Trade Center high-rise collapses.